Now, originally, I wanted this video to be about the real-world history of South Central Los Santos, which includes Strawberry, Davis, and Rancho, but that would be a 40-minute video if I included the history of each of those cities, starting from their foundings up until modern day. So I decided to break down the videos into parts, where in today's video we'll focus on the real-world history of Davis, which is based on Compton, a city in LA County. If this video does garner a lot of interest, I'll make a real-world history of Rancho and Strawberry as well, and talk about their real-life counterparts. But if you guys do go on and enjoy this video, a like and a comment will be appreciated. Subscribe and new to the channel. And with all that out of the way, let's get started with the video. Compton's history dates back to the year 1784, when the Spanish crown deeded 75,000 acres of land to a retired Spanish soldier named Juan Jose Dominguez. Between the year 1784 and 1888, the area has gone under several names, as shown on screen, but the name was settled to be Compton, named after Griffith Compton, a pioneer leader who led settlers to the area in the 1860s. On May 11th, 1888, when Compton was officially incorporated into LA County with a small population of 500 people, which is a very minuscule population compared to today's population of Compton being 91,000 people. The 1920s marks the opening of the Compton Airport, which is not featured in GTA 5, so we can just skip over that part. The Compton Junior College was also founded, along with the relocation of the Compton City Hall, which is featured in GTA 5, which is known as the Davis Court Building. Before World War II, Compton was 95% white. During this time, Compton used policies to restrict people of color from living in Compton, with policies such as redlining. On March 10th, 1933, Compton was devastated with a massive earthquake, killing hundreds of people, destroying schools and the business district. In the 1930s, the Supreme Court declared the policies and laws that prevented people of color from living in certain towns to be unconstitutional. This caused a rise in population from many African Americans into Compton. Many Compton city officials who were against the Supreme Court ruling proposed the dismantling of the Compton Police Department in favor of the LA County Sheriff's Department to keep African Americans from working in law enforcement. Throughout the 1950s, there was white flight in Compton due to change in racial demographics due to the Supreme Court's ruling. And real estate brokers made the issue worse by scaring people with threats of low property value due to the new racially integrated neighborhoods. In 1961, Compton elected its first black mayor, Douglas Dollarhide. Throughout the years, many more people of color had become elected officials in Compton. By the 1970s, Compton had one of the largest populations of African Americans in the United States. During this time, Compton was seen as a great suburbs for families to live in. However, growing unemployment, poverty, and limited commercial properties in Compton led to the rise in crime and gang violence. In the late 1960s to the early 1970s, formation of the street gang, the Crips, which is now known as the Crips, was founded by Raymond Lee Washington. The Crips took inspiration from the Black Panther movement. The Crips name turned to Crips because they carried around canes to emulate stars from black exploitation films, who in the films would carry pimp canes. When the Crips used their canes to attack people, they would be called cripples, which is how their name changed from the Crips to the Crips. By 1972, there was multiple sets of the Crips in South Central Los Angeles. The West Side Crips, the Inglewood Crips, the East Side Crips, Avalon Garden Crips, 104th Street Crips, and Compton Crips. In both San Andreas and GTA 5, there's also multiple sets of the families who don't get along with each other, considering that the families are based on the Crips and the Ballas are based on the Bloods. Later on in the early 70s, T. Rogers, who would later be the founder of the gang, the Black P-Stones, formed an anti-Crip alliance after he spoke out against the Crips causing trouble in his neighborhood. T. Rogers then formed an alliance with other gangs against the Crips. To distinguish each other, the two sides wore different colors. The Crips wore blue, while the anti-Crip alliance wore red. The anti-Crip alliance would later call themselves the Bloods. The gang war of the Bloods and Crips became an arms race, as the Bloods realized that they were outnumbered by the Crips. At this time, the Bloods decided to steal or illegally buy guns to protect themselves or attack rival gangs. In the late 1980s, popularization of Gangsta Rap grew from Compton, California, from the rap group NWA. Soon after NWA released their first album, Straight Outta Compton, the government was calling for censorship of Gangsta Rap. Radio stations and MTV prevented the music from being broadcasted. Many people argue the lyrics from the album was vulgar and degenerate. While founding member of NWA, Ice Cube, said in a Rolling Stone interview, quote, "We were calling it reality rap. Gangster rap is what was coined by the media." As many fans of NWA, especially those from Compton during this time, felt as if police brutality and racism was finally having a light shine to it. and they saw the censorship of NWA's music as a way to censor the truth of what the experience was for the person of color in America. In 1989, NWA was told to not perform their song "Fuck the Police" at a concert in Detroit, or else they will be fined. But of course they performed the song anyways. They only performed it for 30 seconds before shots were fired off. Now there's a lot of conflicting stories on what exactly happened that night. Ice Cube claimed that they were detained by the police, and the police were asking for autographs for their kids. The tour manager, Aton Gregory, claimed that the rappers removed their hats and turned their shirts inside out and blended in with the crowd and escaped under the police's radar. MC Ren, a member of NWA, claimed that him and Dr. Dre ran away and went back into the concert venue's dressing room backstage to give citations to the police. DJ Yella claims that he ran off to a hotel. So there's a lot of conflicting stories of what exactly happened that night, but I will say the movie that came out in 2015, Straight Outta Compton, is not really that accurate with this part. In the year 1991, in the Lakeview Terrace district of LA, just 40 minutes north from Compton, Rodney King was pulled over for drunk driving. George Holliday, a resident at Lakeview Terrace, witnessed Rodney King being brutally beaten by LAPD officers. And since back then nobody really had camera phones, this was way before smartphones by at least 20 years, George Holliday filmed the beating of Rodney King from his home video camera. The beating from the police officers went on for 9 minutes after George began filming. Rodney King was struck by different officers 56 times and suffered several broken bones. His eye socket was pulverized, his cheekbone required reconstructive surgery, and many African American victims of the LAPD spoke out and claimed that the beating of Rodney King was not an isolated incident. April 29th, 1992, all the police officers who were involved in the beating of Rodney King were all found not guilty. This of course angered many Americans of all colors throughout the country, who all saw the footage of Rodney King being beaten by the police on national television. This led to a nationwide protest. These protests devolved into mass riots, LA taking the worst of it. And the riots weren't just isolated in South Central LA, but all over, from Koreatown to Santa Monica to Hollywood to Beverly Hills and to Fairfax. The riots resulted in 63 people being killed, 2,300 injured, and over 12,000 arrested, with an estimated $1 billion in property damage. And approximately 3,600 fires were set during these riots, destroying 1,100 buildings. In Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, being that the game's story is set in the same year, that being 1992, the riots broke out in Los Santos after Officer Tenpenny was acquitted of all his charges. The game clearly took its inspiration from real-life Los Angeles. Compton today has a population of almost 100,000 people. The crime rate dropped compared to the 1990s due to the end of the crack epidemic and the eases of tensions for the Rodney King riots. Violent crime rate is 1,100 per 100,000 people. Even during the nationwide protests that have devolved into riots during 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, Compton held 2 Black Lives Matter protests, where Compton native Kendrick Lamar also ended up attending these protests. The Black Lives Matter protests of 2020 are stark contrast to the 1992 riots in Compton, as the protests in Compton remain calm and peaceful. Compton is looking forward to urbanization from many real estate developers who are looking to build more housing, apartments, and retail plazas, and looking to build more affordable housing in Compton as well. Although Compton's not the best city to live in right now in LA, it's still better off now than it was 30 years ago during the 1990s. Now obviously Davis in GTA 5, although it's based on Compton, the crime in GTA 5 is obviously satire and it's obviously dramatized because it's a video game. Compton isn't as bad as it is in GTA, obviously, and Compton is better off now than it was 30 years ago. So you guys did go on enjoy this video, a like and comment would be appreciated. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I really do have fun making these real world history videos for GTA and Red Dead. And yeah, with all that out of the way, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.